in this lesson, we'll finish up doing some sculpting on the face of our character. So as we go through this process, it's going to be a good thing to look at the reference that we have. So in this case, we're doing a caricature, so we're just kind of trying to exaggerate someone that's fairly well known. And we happen to be using some reference art. This is, again, the artwork that we talked about earlier. And so you can see how we've got a very exaggerated and pronounced jaw. The neck is extremely large and exaggerated. You know, the top of the head's a little bit smaller. We've got exaggerated angles on the eyes and so forth. So this is kind of the look that we're going for. We can also reference images of the actual person. So looking at this, you know, this obviously is not exaggerated, but you can kind of see the angle of the mouth. You can see how the round parts of the upper lip are kind of these wide round parts on both sides. And then you can see sort of the angle of the lip even without that exaggeration in it. Okay, so we'll take a look at this reference as we go through this process. Right now, I just want to come in and start to just add a little bit more detail to the face and kind of finish it up. So to help us kind of see the detail, I'm going to actually go to Viewport Filters, and I'm going to turn on the Cavity Ambient Occlusion, which you can see just kind of brings out some of those details. I'm also going to turn on Ambient Occlusion. Now I'm going to take the cast length down to something a little bit smaller, maybe something like 5 or so. But it just gives us a little bit better idea of the shading and makes it look a little bit nicer for us as we sculpt. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to start to, let's actually modify the nose here. So we haven't really done anything to the nose, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of smooth that out. Let's go ahead and turn off our stamp, and let's turn on symmetry in the X. And so I just want to start to put in those nostrils there. So we can kind of start to drop those in and just smooth it, kind of smooth it out as we go. And kind of smooth out underneath there. If we want to use wax to kind of build that up just a little bit, it's a little bit more kind of like, you know, building wax or clay on top of your model. That may be something that you prefer over using kind of the basic sculpt. We can kind of build that nose up around the nostrils, help it kind of blend down into the lip, the top lip there. Now I want to bring this whole thing up a little. So we'll just kind of bring that up. And then this little corner area right down here, I'm actually going to bring that up as well. Okay. And so just kind of shape our nose a bit. And you can continue if you want to really refine that a little bit more inside there. You can do that. I'm going to bring a little bit of geometry across here. So we get something like that. I also want to get the sculpt, and I want to use, first of all, that last vector displacement just to add some nice lines here. And I'm going to increase the strength. And so areas like up under here, I want to really pronounce this little flesh underneath the eye. And so I'm just going to come in here and just sculpt that in. Maybe right here in the corner, just add a little bit of detail there, and then maybe real lightly come across with some more lines there. I want it to be fairly stylized and not super realistic, so I want to kind of just simplify some of the shapes here. On the cheekbone, I want to actually emphasize that cheekbone a little bit more. So I'm going to use grab. I want to start to pull it out a bit. Really give him a strong shape there. Kind of pull that in underneath it. All right, and then we can go back to sculpt. We can start to add in some of those lines, emphasize those lines a little bit more coming up across the chin. Be down from the mouth here. Okay, I get a larger brush size and just kind of cut that in right under the jaw there just a little bit. You can maybe kind of do the same thing back here just to kind of define that a little bit more. Maybe smooth that out a bit. All right, kind of come in underneath that cheekbone, kind of cut in that that flesh there a little bit. We can smooth out that cheekbone if it's too much. Kind of up here on the side of the head. Across the brow, I want to do the same thing. I'm just going to create, maybe come in, I'm actually going to turn off symmetry for this. I come in from kind of one side, come across here, and just kind of smooth that out a little bit. Just create a little bit of that crease there. You can use your wax too to kind of build that up a bit. Kind of come down here and build in some of those lines. Again, I'm just now working a little bit more asymmetrically. Now if you find that you're getting a lot of, this is from our ambient occlusion, but if you find you're getting a lot of artifacts, you can increase your resolution. I'm going to kind of de-emphasize this brow a little bit. I don't want him to look like Frankenstein's monster, but I do want it to be exaggerated, so I'm just going to bring this down a little. And let's kind of bring this back over here on the side a bit. Maybe bring that down a bit so we get something more like this. Now I want to use a wax, and I really want to get that angle there. I'm going to turn on symmetry. I really want to get that angle for that brow coming back across the forehead. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. And then go back to sculpt, and I just want to add a little bit of a cut right in there. Let me get a kind of a smaller brush size. A little bit of a divot in there. That may be too high, but I'll go ahead and just change that around. Now he is going to have kind of a headband across there, so a lot of this won't necessarily be seen, but I'm going to go ahead and draw in some lines here on the forehead. You can see where we're just a little too low resolution. Okay, just a few lines coming up here. And smooth them back down a little bit, just to get that little bit of a detail in there. We can come in and detail kind of under the neck, add a little bit of detail to the throat there, maybe under the chin as well. So we're just kind of using this as an opportunity to add those little details that we want to add before we start, you know, painting things on like the eyebrows and things like that. We can come in here and maybe add a little bit of a line there. If that's getting a little bit weak in here, we can start to add a little bit more flesh on top of this, coming across the cheekbone. Start to build that up a little bit more. Okay, and this is your chance to kind of just add kind of detail that you want to add in here. Don't go too crazy with it, but you just want to come in and try to add a little bit of interest, maybe do a little bit more asymmetrically, do a little bit more shaping, maybe square off the chin a little bit more. Bring this out and square it off a bit. You add a little bit of a wrinkle in there. Maybe here across the neck, we can start to go ahead and define some of these areas a little bit more. So coming in here and making that triangle, we can get wax and just kind of push that in, just holding down Control to kind of push that area in right there. Then we can go back and smooth it out, and again use that sculpt to get those lines in there. Those vector displacement stamps are a really great addition to really get some nice creases and folds that would otherwise be a little bit more difficult to get. Okay, maybe come in here along the back, and we're going to have hair on here, so we don't want to spend too much time, but just kind of come in and add a little bit of that detail there on the back. All right. So I think that's good for now. We'll have a chance to really add some final details to this, but I'm going to start from this point as far as doing the rest of this model. The next thing that we want to do is to sculpt the eyebrows. So we're going to have hair and eyebrows. The eyebrows I'm actually sculpt onto the mesh, and then the hair will be a separate mesh. So we'll go ahead and sculpt the eyebrows onto our mesh in the next lesson.